That's right. You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. The Jew, I love everyone. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
Okay, you know what? He meant to say even. He meant to say even Hitler, okay? And even if he didn't, if he it just sounds like he was saying like especially okay, so in like response.
Are you leaving?
In like response to like how people were treating it, you know, almost like in to kind of match that energy. He meant to say even. He sees redeeming qualities even in Hitler. Good morning. Thank you for coming through here to another episode of Pal Go On, the best feeling podcast in the best feeling network, your only no nonsense podcast. With your host Herbie, this is Pal Go On. Today is a Wednesday, which as you know on Pal Go On, every Wednesday is a Warfare Wednesday. Warfare Wednesday. Good morning. On every Warfare Wednesday, on every day in Pal Go On, every weekday in Pal Go On, every weekday morning, we are discussing our relationship between ourselves and other things. On Warfare Wednesdays, we discuss the relationship between ourselves and the outside world, what is happening right now. What you just heard was an interview between Kanye West, and Alex Jones. Apparently set the internet on fire. I mean, I think everybody at this point has heard about it. And it's such a great topic today. It is such a great topic today on this Warfare Wednesday, discussing the relationship between ourselves and the world. It seems to line up very well with our topic yesterday on True Love Tuesday, which is that love is not emotionalism. And so we zoom forward and we talk about Kanye West, and the next day here on Warfare Wednesday, we're talking about Kanye West's comments and saying he loves Hitler. He loves such and such. He loves everybody, right? Including, and especially in his words, especially Hitler. He meant to say even. He meant to say even, guys. Calm down. He meant to say even. And either way, I understand the spirit of what he's saying. It's especially on topic with yesterday, which was, I mean, I know this news was over the weekend, but I wasn't thinking about connecting them. But when we're talking about love is not emotionalism. So right now people are scrambling and the whole internet's on fire like, oh, Kanye West is he's having a mental breakdown. He's not well, which is very interesting when you think about it. It's very interesting that the entire internet, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, what have you, seems like all the big commentators, even on the Daily Wire commentators, have been zooming in and focusing on Kanye like he's not well. He's unwell. He's having a mental breakdown. We should feel bad for him, which is not great. It's especially concerning considering these are the same people who were rightfully calling people radical and crazy for saying that people who like are against the vaccine or against masking, oh, they have a mental illness. Or people who voted for Trump is like, oh, they have like a mental illness. And I remember people all over the place were talking about them and saying like, what? That's like it's like a fascist. You know, that's the thing they do is they call out people as like being unwell. So no longer like is the strategy like to socially ostracize them, but it's like, oh, they need to be medically treated, which is like a dangerous road when you think about it. It's like, oh, they need to be medically treated if they voted for such and such, or if they believe, or if they're anti-vaccines for COVID, not even anywhere else, or if they're like anti-mask. It's like a dangerous path to go down. Of like, oh, they're crazy. Put them in a mental institute. Now everything they say is completely invalidated. Or we can even go so far as to like start sticking needles into them, which could lead to, I mean, euthanasia. Not the youth in Asia, but euthanasia. It can lead to just like, doctor practice death. If you take it to the logical extreme of like, these people are crazy. And then now you turn around and being like, oh, Kanye's crazy. And these are the same people who were telling the other side of how dangerous it was to to immediately label people as like mentally ill. It's like a whole nother level of dastardly, because now you kind of open up the grounds to be like getting the medical industry involved in stuff. And that's like an area of our lives where like the average person, it has like full trust in this institution, right? Like you trust the hospitals, you trust the clinics on like this different level that you don't put any other people on. Wild, but I mean, like, chill out, guys. Chill out. Everybody chill. As we were talking about yesterday on True Love Tuesday, I mean, we can definitely see a clearer path here. We might be seeing seeing Hitler as like this incarnation of evil, and that's kind of how the world sees Hitler. The world sees Hitler as like the devil, right? And so already the world, as we were discussing, abandons the idea that everybody's the same, right? So like this idea of people saying like, oh, equality among races, there's racism rampant in the world. Like these same people, because they see Hitler as the devil itself, they don't even believe what they're saying. They don't even believe that everybody's created equal. No wonder why racism in their eyes, quote unquote, is still prolific and abound in the world and just like running rampant, because in their view, they actually believe in racism. These same people, they're the ones who actually believe that all people are not the same. Because if you see Hitler as the devil himself, Hitler's still a human being. It doesn't matter how, way later after the fact, it doesn't matter how much you look at the destruction that this person may have been responsible for, but there's so many people in this line of responsibility that you can't even choose one specific person to be the devil. You might be like, yes, we can, Herbie. Hitler was at the top. Okay, but who influenced Hitler? How many people and weak decisions in the way people around him were, and people enabling his personality, his cult personality. The people who raised him, what were their follies like that he ended up living his life this way? Like, the same way it is for everyone else. Nobody is just themselves. We're all reflections of all of our experiences that we've had through life. So you can't even really begin to blame specifically this one person when it comes spiritually. Of course, their actions, you can hold them responsible for their actions, but for the entire spirit that was driving them, as we're all just driven by spirits, not like ghosts, right? But like attitudes and motivations that we learn throughout life by finding what to value in life, et cetera, based on how you were raised. These same people who are crying, oh, we need to have more equality in the world. You guys need to treat the races the same because we're all the same. These same people see Hitler as the devil, which means that they don't even believe that all people are the same, because even if Hitler did physically was the one physically manifesting this entire spirit that everyone else was going along with, even if he's the physical, like he's like the pimple, he's like the thing that you can see, it doesn't mean that the rest of the pores aren't dirty. It's just because it's just that pimple doesn't mean, just because you see that pimple, it doesn't mean that pimple is the only, like that's just the very surface level of what was going on, right? And so in order to actually believe that all people should be equal, you actually have to believe that all people are equal, which they don't believe if they see Hitler as the devil, because humans are not the devil. Humans are influenced by ideas, and some ideas are more evil than others, but no one is the devil. As we were talking about on True Love Tuesday yesterday, emotions and moods happen to you. Thoughts happen to you. They are not you. Thoughts and emotions, just the same way if you look in your own personal life, if you look at your own experiences, when your mood changes and when your emotions change and all these kinds of things, those are not you. They're happening to you. And over time, you begin to identify with them, but your body is simply reacting on different levels of consciousness to all these stimuli around you. These emotions and these thoughts are not you, but spend enough time repeating a lie, you begin to believe it. And so spend enough time believing that these thoughts that are happening over you and these emotions and these moods are happening over you, spending enough time identifying with them causes you to actually hold on to them and move forward in that direction, right? emotions, like love is not emotionalism, right? Like it's much deeper than that, because if love was emotionalism, it would be like saying that just as soon as your mood shifts or that your emotions shift, you no longer feel that emotional high of quote unquote loving someone. That would mean that you don't love them anymore. It's not true. We know that deep down. We know that there's like this, there's a larger, deeper idea of love, which we know to pervade all. It conquers all, as they say on their picket signs. And so it can't be emotion, as emotion is fleeting and it's happening to you, right? It's like happening to you, and you can choose to identify with it, or you can choose to let it wash over you and simply observe as you react to them. And so, if it's true that you actually believe that everybody is the same and that you value this idea of equality, of like all races being equal, everybody's equal, then you cannot believe Hitler is the devil. He must be a human being who was overcome with evil emotions, thoughts, and ideas that he began to identify with because there was no guidance away from it. Right? Just like you in your own life. When your emotions and mood shift, it doesn't mean that you stop loving or caring about the things or valuing the things that you value. It just means that your emotions are coming over you. Your mood is shifting and it's happening to you, and you could choose to identify with that and stew on those thoughts and ideas, or you can choose to let them wash away. And so each of us have this responsibility to ourselves and other people to allow these thoughts to wash away, so we don't identify with every crazy thought we have, because we have crazy thoughts. Think about in the mornings. How you're just like, I just want to die. I don't want to go to work. Or you have thoughts of like, I hate this customer. Or you have thoughts of like, the customers hate me. I should just die. Like, we have all of these crazy thoughts throughout the day, but we don't choose to identify with all of them. Just the same way all humans are the same, all thoughts are the same, in which you do not have to identify with them. And if you truly believe that all humans are the same, and you actually do have love for all human beings, and you actually do want to see an end to this idea of racism, this fake divide between human beings, then you have to believe that even Hitler was a human being who was not the devil incarnate, but rather there are evil ideas that are selfish and based off of impulsive human emotion. Those are like those self-righteous ideas of like when we're afraid for our safety or for our health, we tend to have crazy ideas, violent ideas. Those take over you, or those wash over you, but are not you. Right? They are not you unless you choose to identify with them, and then you choose to explore and find reasons to justify it. But they are not you. These crazy ideas of wanting to take vindication or wanting to take revenge on other races, or wanting to have revenge on other sexes, or wanting to actually physically harm yourself or others. Of course, these will happen to people who feel afraid for their future, their family, their whatever it is that they value. And so if all humans are alike, this is all happening to all of us. No one is the evil itself, but rather becomes influenced and then sees their own justifications for identifying with them. And so if you actually want to see the end of racism, if you truly believe that all humans are equal, you would have to put even the most evil people on there, or what we consider the most evil. You'd have to consider them as well. It just has to be that way. Otherwise, you don't logically see everyone as the same. You might be like, but this is Hitler, Herbie. No, yeah, this is Hitler, Herbie. It doesn't matter. He's a human being, right? So it has to be the same rules. Otherwise, you don't actually view everyone as equal. You see everyone as equal, and then somehow Hitler's like this devil, which would mean that he wasn't human. He wasn't human. And if that's the case, then where do you draw the line? And why do you get to draw the line? It doesn't make sense. In actuality, what Kanye is saying actually makes more sense, in the sense that he's not saying Hitler is the devil, but he's a human being. And so if he's a human being, you must love, or understand rather. You must love, which is understanding, which is truth. You must be able to not judge every human being. How can you do that? Well, you can look at their perspective from your own, as in looking at your own life. As we were talking about yesterday, looking at your own life, you can see what's happening within you, and you can see that what's happening within you is happening without you in the outside world, inside of others. Meaning that everybody, no matter who they are, you're doing what you believe is best in your life. And you might be like, well, I smoke weed and drink and sleep all day. You might believe that that is what is best for your life. deep down because of the worldviews that you inherited through the life that you were raised in. Your reactions to different stimuli, thoughts, and ideas that pass through your head that you chose to identify with, you might believe that you're worth this. Whatever you are doing, you might believe you are worth that. And so we all have this like inner dignity of like, I'm doing what I believe is good. Even people that we castigate as evil, even villains in stories, they believe they are doing something good. At least any character that's created that people actually resonate with and actually end up liking, like Thanos or Itachi. Even though what they're doing, even what they're physicalizing into the world, even though it's causing massive harm, as every human is, in their view, in all of their awareness of their entire story, all the things they value, this is good. Otherwise, they wouldn't choose to do it. Your body can only be doing like one thing at a time. So it's like, oh, well, people do stuff that they believe is bad all the time. They smoke, they drink, they cheat, they murder. Based on how the human body is feeling, whether or not they feel like they're in an inescapable situation somehow, like they feel like they can't escape the public scrutiny, or they don't feel like they can escape the tyranny of their parents, or they don't feel like they can escape the hole that they feel growing in their soul when they feel like worthless in life. And so they don't feel like they can escape from that inner pain. And so they're gonna do something to make themselves feel better. And even though it manifests as something very damaging to others, in their experience, as they feel this gaping hole in their soul coming from this like existential idea that they're worth nothing, it's like at that moment, their body feels like there's nothing better than relieving that feeling. And that could manifest in dangerous outcomes for the rest of the world. But in their experience, their physical experience, this was good because there was nothing gooder than somehow possibly alleviating this giant growing hole in people's hearts, or in their hearts, feeling like they're worthless. And so when people feel like they're worthless, it's like this incredibly gravitational negative feeling that the good in that person's life feels like anything to get rid of that feeling. They're not thinking about good of like mankind. They're not thinking about good of, of like not stealing or something. They only can experience, just like you can only experience that you're feeling, that physical embodiment of the experience that you're feeling. And so whatever it is you're trying to alleviate, that gaping hole feeling, whatever will help with that is good to you. And so everybody's always trying to do what they believe is good. The question when people do something evil or like horrifically offensive is not why did they choose bad, but rather how could they have been influenced to believe that this was good? What kind of pain are they going through to believe that this was good? It must have been some horrific pain to believe that this was the good that would solve that pain. And that's all it is. People freaking going crazy like, Kanye's crazy. He's off his rocker because he called Hitler good. Or he says that he likes Hitler, or that like he says that he loves Hitler. People like going all crazy like, oh my gosh, he's off his rocker. He's freaking insane for saying anything good about Hitler. These same people are the ones who are wrong because they see Hitler as the devil instead of seeing Hitler as a human being, and all human beings are influenced by thoughts and ideas that they choose to identify with or not. And it just so happens that Hitler was one of the ones who's like, he's like at the precipice. He decided to shoulder on all of this spirit and ideas that were culminating. He wasn't living in a vacuum. He's not like this super like powerful anime dude like forcing everybody to bend to their knees. Like he was surrounded by other people who were also influenced by the same spirit somehow. Not spirit like ghost Casper, right? But motivations. They were all influenced by like the same motivations, and whatever it was they were going through, they saw that it was easier to alleviate their inner suffering to just go along with it. The same way everybody just goes along with like masks and like the vaxes, and they're just like, oh, okay, well, it's the thing that we got to do. The same thing that they were going through. On both sides, on all sides. Like every human being is just going through this. And so to call Kanye crazy for seeing anything redeeming or just being human, seeing Hitler as a human being, part of this entire design that we're all living in, not seeing Hitler as separate from other human beings, by believing that he is crazy for believing that we're all human beings, you guys are the crazy ones. for even viewing Hitler as this like devil himself instead of seeing him as like the main figurehead for the evil spirit, the evil motivations. At the time, he was the one who took it in arms, and it's like everything coalesced in such a way where he was like prepared to take up this arms or prepared to take up the mantle for like this idea. But he wasn't alone. All of these people were the same people who were like, all of these people were the people who followed him, also agreeing and also enabling. And so Kanye is not crazy for seeing everybody as human beings who are afflicted. We are afflicted with thoughts and ideas. He's not crazy for seeing Hitler as another human being, just like you and I, who was just at the epicenter of this maelstrom of ideas that led to catastrophe. He's not crazy for believing that every human is a human being, and so deserve the dignity of a human being, knowing that every human being is going after for something that they believe is good. They're not the devil themselves where they just want bad, but in their view and their experience, they viewed something as good and went towards it the same way we all do. Kanye's not crazy for believing that about everyone, and Hitler's included in everyone. You guys are crazy for thinking that Hitler was a devil literally and not a human being. What's wrong with you? It's not true. Every human being is a human being. Thoughts and ideas afflict us and manifest within us, and they afflict our spirits, and we can choose how we decide to integrate or identify with any of these thoughts. But we're all human beings. We're all human beings. We'll be right back after this short break. We'll probably play the Kanye clip again, just to recap. You're back. Drained? Depressed? Has the chaos of the world got you feeling confused and apathetic? Even gassy? Feeling like nothing gets you out of this funk? When you're feeling lost in the daily grind, left feeling meaningless, don't touch grass, touch the front of your shins. Feel less tired and more inspired with us on the Best Feeling Podcast. Pago on. Feel less tired and more inspired here on Pago One. Good morning. Welcome back to this Warfare Wednesday where we're talking about Kanye West and Alex Jones. Good morning. I hope you have been spending some time to feel so self-aware wherever you are, stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every morning as we are letting ourselves envelop, is that a word, into this podcast. We are also staying present wherever we are. Always, always, always staying present wherever we are, allowing this podcast to blend into the symphony of sounds around you. Of course, feeling so present because there's nothing There is nothing in love if not truth, and there's nothing more true than the body where you are right now, and your body's not in the future or in the past, but here in the present. So we shall stay in the present. Thank you very much. All right. We're talking about Kanye West and Alex Jones interview. It's a 3-hour interview. I actually was gonna watch it in its entirety because I mean right now it's like taken off of YouTube. Only specific clips are being reviewed by all the commentators, and you can tell that all the commentators have been fed the same like 5 clips, which is stupid because most commentators, especially the ones that I listen to, are always talking about like, you gotta hear the whole context. Granted, I mean, they're not exactly going to sit down and watch a 3-hour interview as most of the commentators, serious commentators, have a lot on their plate. They're writing articles daily and everything like that. But this is the danger that we slip into. And this is where we come in. This is the danger we slip into when we allow ourselves to start, allowing. It's just impossible though, right? Like to allow like these larger stories to just slip under the table unscrutinized. I mean, this is really how the world gets controlled by the select few, is they just like overwhelm you with all this info and then say like, okay, you got to get a few of these clips, and then 5 of those small clips everybody's going to see, and then you're going to make a judgment of the interview based on those 5 small clips. And who's deciding which clips go? Who's deciding which clips they see? It's a sticky situation because there's just so much information happening all the time, which is why I'm always saying that we live in a post-information world right now, where I mean, getting your info from a source on your phone doesn't matter. Like you can find a study, you can find a writing art, you can find an article, you can find somewhere in text on the internet that'll validate or verify any claim you want to make. So we live in this post-information era where like information doesn't even matter. Like it matters for subject matter, for what to talk about, but it's becoming near impossible to verify anything as truth unless you see it with your own eyes, which is fine. That's where we are here. That's where we are on Pile Go On, is we're always saying self-aware in our bodies. Let's roll this clip back about Kanye West right now. It is one of the clips with Kanye West being interviewed by Alex Jones. Nick Fuentes, who apparently is also Kanye West's, he was also his campaign manager for his presidency run. On the Alex Jones show, he's interviewing Kanye West. And as I was saying before, there's like 5 or so clips that are constantly in rotation right now. And really the only ones you can find on YouTube. And so those are the only ones that people are commenting on. This is one of those clips.
That's right. You're not Hitler.
Here. And Alex Jones is even trying to defend him, because apparently up until this point, Kanye was already saying some pretty like wild stuff according to the masses. But again, we're talking about a masses who believe that the word love is about emotion. So when Kanye is saying like, oh, I love all these evil people, I love Hitler, we already live in a society where you out there are thinking that like emotional love is love. Like, oh, if you say you love this person, that means that you have like these emotionally giddy feelings. So they're already mixing definitions. They're already like applying that kind of premise of love being this like giddy feeling, and they're applying that already to what Kanye is saying instead of looking for what he's trying to say from the inside out.
That's right. You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Let me put that on the screen. So yeah, Alex Jones is even trying to defend him here, right? He's like, you're not Nazi. You're not a Nazi. You're not Hitler.
That's right. You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. I love everyone. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought.
That's not even contestable. That's not even like arguable, especially right now with the current culture that we have right now, which is so quick to be like, yeah, everything is valuable. Every piece of artwork, every piece of poop that flies against the wall, as long as there's a human involved somehow, is art. And even if not, it's valuable. Everybody's lived experience is equally valuable. Everybody, we have this entire swath of people who are like virtue signaling and like swatting people down morally, just like thinking they have the moral high ground by saying like, everybody has value. There's no need to disagree with anybody ever. And these are the same people who are saying like
every human being has
who are finding something wrong with Kanye saying every human being has something of value. What, just because it was someone who gave in to all these evil ideas and ended up murdering like how many people, you're saying that they're not a human being anymore? It just scientifically, it just doesn't make sense. Of course they're a human being. Like, what? So if you believe that races should be together, and if you really do believe that everybody's equal and like everybody has value, there should be nothing remotely to argue with this statement.
something of value. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table.
Yeah. Basic. Seems basic to me. It's like, of course. Even people who, you know what, I'm gonna let it continue. Hold me back. Hold me back.
That's right. You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. The Jew, I love everyone. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
For him to say that, though, I don't know if that was just him being facetious or whatever. It's just funny. Like, Kanye's always doing stuff. He's just always facetious anyway. He's just always, sometimes it's like offensive for shock value. But even that has value beyond shock. Like, people are thinking like, woosah. I mean, just talking about his whole idea of like, every human has value, right? And then you're going to have everyone up in arms. Like, hey, you can't say that even about Hitler, even though Hitler was a human being. Like, these are the same people who see no problem with that one murderer guy who was featured on like GQ or something. Like, he became a model even though he was like on death row or something like that. So this is someone who's like on death row, and they don't put people on death row for spitting gum on the floor. They don't put people on death row for stealing. They don't put people on death row even for killing one or... It usually takes something very catastrophic. You know what I'm saying? People don't just slip into death row. And this is someone who's on death row. And then you have all of these polls, all of these magazine endorsements, all of these people just wholeheartedly saying, like, oh, but he's so cute though. He was featured on GQ. You had him as like the sexiest man in the world. He was like ranked somewhere like that by women. And this is like a murderer, right? This is like someone on death row. And so right there, hands down, they're saying that he looks good. So he brings looks to the table, right? Everybody, as Kanye was saying, brings something to the table. Even if they do something that is harmful to others, you never know the whole picture of whether or not this could have been that moment in which it caused all these people to become more driven in their life, more motivated, and they end up finding and releasing the cure for cancer, or whatever is considered as like the pinnacle of good. Like, the way they see Hitler is like the pinnacle of bad. Curing cancer is like the pinnacle of like good, right? As like the common thinking in the world, right? You never know if someone's death or if someone's tragic succumbing to evil to the point where they commit mass murder, or they commit mass genocide, or they murder someone close to you. You don't know if that could have sparked, or if that was the only reason why there was a spark within other human beings who experienced this moment or were told about this moment, and just sparks inspiration in a way in which they cure cancer, or they stop World War III from happening, or they find the fountain of youth to make people live forever, which I don't even know if it'd be a good thing. But we don't see the whole picture. So to say that every person has a redeeming quality about them is not even a hard statement to stand on. Because you might be talking about the qualities in which they bring to the table for other people by being a counterexample of what not to do, which inspires people to do great things. Or by being the catalyst to some catastrophic event that caused the inspiration or sparked in others the motivation it took to like go discover other planets and like colonize other planets, or like create perpetual energy. Saying that everyone has redeeming qualities is such an easy statement to stand on in truth when we're looking at it from a vantage point of like even disasters create new flowers that would not have been able to exist without these disasters. I was just told about like a specific acorn at work that only sprouts a tree, or the seed in the acorn or something only sprouts a tree after a fire. Like only after a wildfire is there the correct soil compounds that this specific kind of plant can grow in, and then it ends up regrowing the forest after forest fires. So every human being is all just freaking like, we're all human beings choosing or not choosing to identify with specific thoughts that afflict you. We're all just like influenced by ideas. We're all like under these big ideas that we all just follow. Like we're all just human beings. And even in our follies and even in the tragedy that human beings can, or even the atrocities rather that human beings can inflict onto other human beings, there's redeeming qualities about it as the human spirit reacts to these atrocities and become inspired and motivated to do crazy and great things. It doesn't mean you force those atrocities, but rather there is a perspective on it in which there is good from these atrocities. If anything, it's easier to call human atrocities in history. If anything, it's more accurate to call them tragedies instead of atrocities. Maybe atrocities if you're looking at that person directly and like you're like analyzing the situation that they put the world in. But when we zoom out, every human atrocity is a tragedy, meaning that it's just like an evil, awful thing that really can't be held. And so it's tragic. You just have to watch it as it happens. There's nothing you can really do about it, because human beings are these things where we just become influenced and overcome with thoughts, and we become afflicted with thoughts based on how like we're reacting to stimuli in the world. And whether or not we choose to identify with those thoughts depends on what we value at the time. At the root of all of our values, of course, is our survival. And so when people are at their lowest points, as Legend of Avatar would say, if anybody who watches The Last Airbender, like when we are lowest at our points, we are open to most change, right? And sometimes it's for the good, sometimes it's for the bad. But to love all, or to see true love, as we were talking about yesterday, you need to look at it. True love itself is more of like a worldview. That's a worldview that all humans are equal, and that's the only way you can actually have true love for everybody. Is you have to see all humans as equal. Why? Because there's no other reason to do anything. There's no other reason for human beings to necessarily be good, to be philanthropic, to be charitable, to be kind. There's no real reason, overarching reason why everyone should be that way, unless you see everyone as the same. If you don't see everyone as the same, that means that you see some people as above others and some people then lower than others. There's nothing to really justify or even motivate you to be good to all people, to be kind to all people, unless you see everyone as equal. And if you see everyone as equal, you have to see even the people who are afflicted the most, like Hitler and other people who caused such gigantic atrocities in history. You have to even see them as just the most afflicted, but they're still human beings. You have to see them as, I mean, do what you want. Suffer and die for all we care, as Jesse would say. But I mean, like, you can't convince anybody of anything. So do what you will. Of course, you're always going to do what you will at the end of the day. Of course. Just the same way me or you or anybody else, you're always trying to do the most good for yourself. But you got to see everybody as equal, as the same. And that includes these people who have committed such atrocities. They have to be the same. And the question isn't, oh, why would they choose to do evil? Why would they choose to do bad? But the question is rather, what must have they been afflicted with? What kind of thoughts must have been overwhelming them? And what kind of thoughts did they identify with that caused them to see what they were doing as good? Just the same way that you are in your life. The same thing happening within you is happening without you inside of others. So Kanye's not crazy for following this true love, this love all philosophy to its natural conclusion. He's not crazy for taking it to its logical extreme, and that you must love even the people that you deem as doers of evil. They themselves are human beings, not evil themselves, but overtaken and have found themselves in agreement with performing acts that we would consider evil. But just the same way you think with like Thanos or any other villain that the common culture identifies with, they have a point in some way. We just have stronger points to do the other stuff. But they have a point in some way, the same way that everybody in their individual life has the dignity, the seriousness of wanting to do good for their own value system, their own worldview. And so the question does not become the question is not like, why? The question is not like, was Hitler the devil or not? But rather, if we're all human beings, then what must have happened to him to make it such that he saw what he was doing as good? Which would mean that you would have to put everybody on an even playing field, which is what you would have to do if you truly wanted to see the end of this quote-unquote racism. This is what you would have to do if you actually wanted all human beings to have love in the world. If you actually did want all human beings to experience love and thriving in the world, if you actually did want to see the end of human schisms based on race, if you actually did want to see the end of what you call racism, you would actually have to put everybody on the same playing field. You would have to put everyone on the same playing field. The same way that just because people are in jail doesn't mean that they're evil. You have to take it to the logical extreme, which means that even people who performed crazy atrocities are not evil themselves physically embodied. They're not the embodiment of evil, but rather, or like their existence is not like evil itself, but rather all human beings, you, me, you and I, all human beings are susceptible to crazy amounts of evil and identifying with crazy thoughts and crazy ideas and finding your value system to try to make these work. Kanye's not crazy for trying to put everyone on the same playing field. You guys are crazy for believing that there was anybody who was a devil where the rest of everybody is just like human beings. It's like everybody's a human or not everyone. Like everybody's a human being or no one's a human being. And we're all human beings, obviously. That's going to be it for today's Warfare Wednesday. Just had to get that off my chest. With that in context, I just want to play this Kanye clip one last time just because like it's just such a fascinating time that we're living in right now. But that's going to be it for this Warfare Wednesday. Thank you guys for joining us. I know it's a little bit different this time, but I am enjoying it right now. I think this is good. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Even if you disagree, I would love to hear why. And if you agree, I'd love to hear you chime in. Thank you for joining us here on the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, and definitely your only no-nonsense podcast with your host, Herbie. This is Pal Go On. Thank you, guys.
That's right. You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
Well, I see good things about Hitler also. I love everyone. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
That's pretty funny. All right. Have a fantastic one, guys.
What do I mean? Like, okay, so how about